FX Morning Mayhem podcast is an essential listen for currency traders. Each episode covers a curated watch list of key currency pairs alongside insightful market observations. It highlights crucial daily news events that could influence the market, ensuring traders are well informed. Additionally, the podcast offers valuable trading strategy tips catering to both new and experienced traders in the Forex market. This podcast is for educational purposes only. None of this info should be construed as investment advice. To see the trades called out live for free on our Slack channel, click the link in the description or scan the QR code to join the trade faction. If you find this podcast valuable, please follow and share with a friend. And now, on with the show. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, January 31st, 2025, and you're listening to FX Morning Mayhem, your go-to podcast for the latest updates in finance and global markets. It's time for the daily market briefing. Let's dive right in. In today's headlines, European stock markets are showing gains, with the Nasdaq leading the way. Apple's stock is up 3.5% before the market opens, thanks to strong growth in its services division. The US dollar is mixed against other major currencies as investors await the release of core PCE data, an important inflation indicator. The Japanese yen is underperforming compared to other currencies. Bond markets are improving after German state inflation reports came in lower than expected, with German government bonds performing particularly well. Oil prices have pulled back from earlier highs as markets wait for updates from President Trump regarding potential tariffs on Canadian and Mexican oil. Looking ahead, key events to watch include German inflation data, US PCE and employment costs, reports Canadian GDP for Q4, German credit rating update, comments from Federal Reserve, official Michelle Bowman, earnings reports from major companies like Exxon, Air, Colgate-Palmolive, and Phillips 66. These events could impact financial markets and provide insights into economic trends. That wraps up today's market preview. Stay tuned for a currency market update with Bill and Dave up next. Thanks for listening to FX Morning Mayhem podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review if you found this helpful.
Let's start with the instruments. So what we have here is the Aussie New Zealand Dollar in a downtrend. We are looking for shorts. I actually took this short right here, the sweet spot last night, and made that money while I slept. It's still in the inception zone, so it's still in the right place. If it pulls back and another sweet spot forms, this is still going to be a good trade. It was actually really hot last night. I hit every single trade. I think it took 4 trades. Yeah. This is the Aussie US dollar, not in much of a trend. It's almost flatlined. It's not in the zone. So we're going to just ignore that. EuroCAD, we are in an uptrend. We're a little overbought, so we're going to ignore that. Pound, Canadian dollar, uptrend, way overbought since yesterday. So going to ignore that as well. New Zealand, US dollar, uptrend in the zone, long wave phase. I think this is one of the trades from yesterday too. Waiting for another one of these to form. If that happens, we will take that trade. Singapore Dollar Swiss Franc, long wave phase, uptrend, inception zone, waiting for a green sweet spot to form before we take that trade. US dollar, Canadian dollar, uptrend in the zone, looking for longs, just waiting for a sweet spot. And then finally, US dollar, Swiss franc, not enough of a trend to care. So if I go back and look at the ones that are in good shape, that's US CAD, Singapore Chief, New Zealand USD, no, no, and then this one. So those four instruments are the ones that are in potential shape to take a trade on.
Gotcha.
Which brings me to the market insight portion of the show.
Okay.
So I thought I'd take a little different twist on economics here and talk about the natural resource that can make a country. And which resource do you think that would be for the country of Colombia?
Cocaine?
Oh, good job. I knew a boomer would get that right. So, cocaine is the largest product of Colombia. And this actually surprised me. There was a 52% increase in production from last year in cocaine in Colombia this year.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't see that traded on the market here, Bill.
I know. That brought up a whole nother. Could you imagine if these things were legal? These would be like huge moneymakers for the government. But
Put that in an EFT and I'd retire.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So from a historical standpoint, Colombia has been the world's leading coca cultivator since the 1980s. They have about 625,000 acres currently being cultivated growing coca. And that's a 10% increase from the previous year, but they stopped spraying something called aerial glyphosate in 2015. Do you remember there was one of the Clancy movies? I'm pretty sure Harrison Ford was in it, and it had something to do with the CIA spraying the coca farms with something. I just remember that scene out of the movie, and when I read this, that suddenly came to mind. Anyway, cocaine earns about $7 billion a year for Colombia's economy, but it does fuel a lot of corruption, violence, and undermines some of the other economic sectors like the oil industry. Global demand, believe it or not, is declining. Actually, I'm not surprised. Boomers are all old, but it's rising in Western Europe and Oceania, despite the government trying to shut it down. You know the old story. They'd have nothing to make movies about if they made it legal. Because nobody wants to see well-behaved farmers growing cocaine. They want to see scary-looking drug lords with lots of weapons. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting, and that is all I have.
Gotcha.
Have a great weekend.